appreciate it. So we want to cover a few topics in our hour together. And I want to move this attendee pod over here so I can see who's with us today. So what I'd like to begin with is letting everybody know that this webinar will be archived. So if you have team members who weren't able to attend and you want them to be able to watch it, it will be emailed afterwards along with a copy of this PowerPoint and any other additional resources. And we have a few team members with us on this webinar today. I'm Jeannie Kitchens, a Credential Engine partner. And then along with me, we have Scarlett Van Steckelman, Nate Argo, and David Reichman. And let me take a look and see if anybody else is on. I believe that's it for our team. And you'll be hearing from them during this presentation. Let me go ahead and, looks like we're missing some information on the slides. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can open up the PowerPoint in another screen, but I don't want to take away a lot of our time together trying to do that. So actually what I want to ask is that, Scarlett, can you go ahead and upload the prior version, and we just won't go all the way to the last slide that has the, doesn't have the new email address, and I'll swap that out in just a moment. Once I have that PowerPoint up, I'll come back to this registry participants information. It has a pie chart we can look at in just a moment. And I'll go back to the technical briefing. So while I'm waiting for that to pop up here on the screen for me to use, I just want to talk a little bit about the going live in 2017. So it is a plan that the technologies, the Credential Engine technologies, will go live in 2017. And what that means is, with all of your input, the continued technical advisory, stakeholders and partners and advisory groups, we continue to be in a testing mode right now with all of our technologies in a sandbox or testing environment. But this year we will have the production live environment. So we'll continue to test things. We'll always have to do that. But the live environment will mean it's where real credential information is on a registry, and where partners can go to scale, not just with a couple of selected credentials to test, but the technologies will be available to go live. So, okay, thanks, Scarlett. Appreciate that. So let me back up to the profile of the current registry participants. So I just want to give a quick update on what that looks like. We currently have 101 credential organizations participating, but notice we also have a state partner. That partner is the state of Indiana, and the state of Indiana has multiple secondary or high school and post-secondary institutions participating. So that will be in addition to the 101 partners here and the 5 quality assurance organizations. And then if I can bring your attention over to the right-hand side here where the pie chart is, what we want to show here is, again, we want all types of credentials for our testing period in particular, and of course once we go live. And you can see the majority of the credentials that partners have selected for the testing period are certificates. And most of those certificates are post-secondary certificates that are less than a degree. And then you can see that's followed with bachelor's degrees and certifications. I would like to give you a quick technical briefing. There is a lot going on for the technical team. And what I want to do is just highlight some of the things that are happening in all of the areas that the technical components of the Credential Engine are covering. The Technical Advisory Committee continues to meet every month. Our next meeting is June 30th. If any of you on this webinar are interested in joining that group, it does remain open. This particular advisory committee is not by nomination, So it's for interested persons that are both content or program experts as well as technical experts. So we welcome members. One of the projects that the Technical Advisory Committee and our team is involved with currently is a credentialing ecosystem mapping team. And this is a team composed of all of the major United States standards bodies working together to map the standards for the different technologies that are prevalent in the United States, and we'll also do this for international as well, that are part of the credentialing ecosystem. So that's going on right now. With the registry participants, the partners are reviewing the selected credentials, and we're going to talk more about that during this webinar today. And we are continuing to work with a small group of the registry participants, 8 of them, on implementing the CTDL pretty much to scale. And then we'll be sharing that information with all of our partners, but we're using a co-design process to help partners, implement these technologies when we go live this year. And as a part of this group, we're working on some vendor strategies, because another way to go to scale that will be important is for the products, the vendor products that credentialing organizations use to implement things within their own products that help push out the CTDL data as linked data on the web and to the registry. The Credential Transparency Description language has been available since April, and the next release is June 30th of this month. So the Credential Registry Services sandbox testing continues, and you'll see that when you're looking at your credentials. You'll actually be able to see the raw metadata that goes into the registry, and you could even click on a link to see what that looks like in the registry. A couple of the things that are happening now related to the registry is we're going to be putting a survey out on minimum expected data that advisory members and partners think we should require versus, I guess, not require in the registry. We're working on incoming and outgoing APIs, pushing and pulling data options, and authentication and accounts. And we're also working on competency framework tools. And when I talk about competency frameworks, I'm also talking about learning outcomes or learning objectives and learning standards. And so we're working on storing those competency frameworks, tools to browse and download, and conversion tools to convert those frameworks from like PDF and Word documents to machine readable formats, much like we're doing with the credential information using the CTDL. We're going to take a look at the WorkIt Search App Prototype in just a couple of minutes, and we're continuing to improve it and gathering feedback. And so a part of this webinar today, we'll be covering instruction guides and checklists that you can use to look at your information, and while you're doing that, you can go ahead and give us some feedback. And finally, the Ctd L Editor. So the Ctd L Editor is a tool that is currently being used to essentially convert all of your credential information in the format for the registry. And we're going to talk about that some more with today's webinar as well. So let me just pause there for a moment. Any questions or comments on the registry participant information or the technical briefing? And I see Bob Sheets, another Credential Engine team member, is on the webinar. Hi, Bob. Do you have audio?
Yes, Jamie, I do.
Hi. Great. I already talked about this going live, so I'm not going to repeat that. Sorry about having to change the order up a little bit. But let me move on to the next section here. So the majority of our time is going to be taking a look at the Search App Prototype, how you can look at your credentialing information in that search app, and then we'll be moving on to additional instructions on how it can be edited with the Ctd L Editor. So in just a moment, Nate, who's on the webinar with us, is going to demo that for you. And before he does, you will be emailed this PowerPoint. And one of the important pieces of information it has for you is how you log in to look at your credentials. So when you go to the WorkIt app, in the very top right-hand corner, you're going to see a login box. Now, every credential registry partner who has selected credentials to test with the registry has received a login. If you don't have your login or you think you haven't received one, definitely let us know so we can make sure we get that set up. According to our records, we think we have all the accounts set up. So, but you have to log in to see it. Right now, it's all private information. If you don't log in, you'll see a little red box at the top, pretty much letting you know that you have to log in to see the credential information. So there's some more slides on finding your credential, but I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. And I'm going to ask Nate to go ahead and move his demo over. Thank you, Nate.
Yep. Everyone hear me all right? Yep. Okay. All right, so what we have here is the WorkIt Prototype App. Now, the purpose of the WorkIt Prototype App is essentially to show off all of the classes and properties in CTDL. CTDL is a schema, which is essentially a way for different systems to have sort of a common language to communicate with each other. CTDL consists of a whole bunch of classes and properties, which are essentially different containers for data related to credentials and some other things. And so you can see that there's quite a bit of stuff in CTDL as I scroll down the page here. What we've done in the WorkIt app is try to write it to show off every single piece of data that we can provide data for in CTDL. The idea here is that this is not what an end user would see. An end user would probably see an app or a website or some similar piece of software like that is more targeted to their interests. So they might see something that's just for credentials. They might see something that's just for their state. They might see something that's just for, say, learning opportunities, that kind of thing. But WorkIt is more for partners. The intent here is that we want to be able to show you, here's like all the power that we have within CTDL, all the ability to convey information. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down the page here. So we see the look and feel of the site is meant to sort of look like an end user site, just again to kind of give you an idea of what you could do with it. But because the information is so big and so verbose, it's not necessarily meant for end users. So anyway, the top part of the site here kind of introduces the sort of stuff I just said. It also tells you what we mean when we say credentials, because that word means different things to different people. One of the key aspects of the data that we have is quality assurance. So we kind of define what we mean by quality assurance down in this section. There's a video that goes into some more depth and detail about WorkIt and about CTDL right here. I'll let you guys watch that. We also have down at the bottom here kind of a section that goes over sort of the target audiences for those sorts of targeted focused apps and websites and so on. People like job seekers, young adults, students, employers, education, training, credentialing organizations, government agencies, and so on. That's just sort of the splash page here. Now again, to kind of give you an idea of the data that we have within the WorkIt app itself, we have this aggregate data page. This is in the footer if you want to take a look at it. And so this page introduces sort of the 4 top-level classes that we have within CTDL. So there's credentials, organizations, assessments, and learning opportunities. And I'll briefly go over what we mean by that. So organizations are essentially any, organization that has something to do with credentials, whether they're, say, a university that's creating and issuing credentials, or a regulatory agency that is, approving and regulating other organizations. If they have something to do with credentials, they're an organization. Credentials are the things that people or organizations can earn. Assessments is a blanket term for anything that assesses, a skill, a knowledge, and ability, anything like that. It could be a written examination. It could be a driver's test. It could be a welding exam, It could be a demonstration, that sort of thing. Learning opportunity is a blanket term for anything involving education. So that could be, a one-day training course in something. That could be a full degree program. It could be anywhere in between. So again, these four sort of top-level things are what we deal with in WorkIt. And so I'm going to hold there for a second and see if we have any questions so far. Okay, doesn't look like it. So go ahead and move on to the search here. Now the search, again, is for all the data that we have in WorkIt, and right now we have 450 credentials in the system. And so as you look down the results here, what you're going to see are sort of the key parts of a credential. So you're going to see an icon that represents the type of credential, which is one of the classes in CTDL, actually several of the classes. You see the name, you see a link to the organization that owns that credential. You see a description of the credential, and then down here, if we have data for it, you will see these gray boxes here. So this one, for example, shows that this credential has these 3 types of quality assurance. This credential applies to these 4 education levels. This credential deals with these 19 subjects. And again, the subjects are similar in concept to what keywords would be. We actually do have a separate field just for keywords. But the reason we have subjects here is because these are things that the credential covers, whereas a keyword is just any term you might have to find that credential in a search. Subjects are more targeted. This credential also involves 62 different competencies. Now, obviously, we're not showing all of them here. We show the first 10 with a link to view the rest. And we'll get to that here in a bit. Obviously, we just have the title and the description of the competency here. And as you go down the page, you'll notice that a lot of the credentials come to us from Ivy Tech Community College of Indiana. Indiana is one of our partners, and lately they've been very busy entering a whole bunch of credentials into the system. And the next thing I want to kind of go over is the map view. So some credentials are really only maybe relevant to a certain place or can only be obtained in a certain place. To convey any sort of location-oriented information, we have this map view here in the search. And what you're going to see here is that we have a whole bunch of icons in Indiana. That's because the first, I think, 25 results that the search returns all have to do with Indiana, or almost all of them do. So if I zoom in here, you can see where that's where all these icons are. And the way the map view works is there's kind of 2 different parts of it. One, you can either just drag the map to whatever area you're interested in and hit search area, and what it will do is return results that have location information that is within the boundaries of that map. The other thing you can do is type the name of a place up here, and that will again focus the map automatically on that place, and then you can adjust the zoom and the exact location, whatever. Again, you hit search area, and it will show results in that location. So I'm going to focus in further on Indiana. I'm going to hit search area, and because I think a lot of the results we have are already populated, you will see some difference, but not a lot. So you see just popped in some more results here, and as I scroll down the page, even more will show up as it loads more results. There we go. And so that's basically how the map view works. Let me go ahead and back out of that. The other aspect to the search is the filtering section up here. So there's a couple of things in this. One, you can select the type of search. So again, we've got the 4 sort of top-level things in WorkIt: credentials, organizations, assessments, and learning opportunities. Right now we're looking for credentials, obviously. You've got the keyword search box, which is hopefully familiar to you if you've used Google or any other major search engine. We've got the filters button. Now there's a few different kinds of filters, and there's a few different categories. So the first category you'll see here is the credential type. So here we have some of the types in CTDL. The reason you don't see all of them, and all of them are visible over on this page here, which I will go ahead and link in the chat. But the reason you don't see all of them is because we're only showing credential types that we have data for. So if you pick any of these, you're going to get at least one result is the idea. There are more types in CTDL, again, on that page that I just showed you. We also have the audience level type, and again, you're only seeing things we have data for here. So this indicates the sort of the, I don't want to say education level, but sort of the I don't know, skill level of the audience that credential is meant to be for. We have Credential Connections. Now, connections between credentials are kind of one of the important focuses of our work on CTDL. The idea here is that a credential or an assessment or learning opportunity can, maybe prepare you for another credential. It could be a requirement for another credential. Maybe it gives you some kind of a shortcut or advanced standing, I think we call it, for another credential or even, for another assessment, that kind of thing. Any sort of connection like that is something that we're trying to capture within CTDL and define more closely. So that's what the credential connections are for. We also have competencies. Now the competencies and also the subject areas, the way that these work is a little different. You type in what it is you're looking for, and you hit enter, and you can add as many as you want. And it will populate the filters with that text. It'll look for that text within that field. If you type something up here, it looks for it in essentially the entire set of data. But if you're looking for something just in the competencies or just in the subjects, this is where you would enter it. We have the industries and occupations filters, and the way that these work is that you first select the category that you're looking for, and then within that category you can select additional things, and those will be used as the filters for that search. And right now the industries we're using come from the NAICS codes, NAICS, and the occupations we're using come from the SOC codes, SOC. We're also looking at expanding the occupations codes to use the military occupation codes and possibly others. Within the context of CTDL, you could use any sort of code system like, say, the European ESCO codes, that kind of thing. We also have the quality assurance, which essentially is just, it says, show me the credentials that are accredited, or show me the credentials that some QA organization approves or recognizes, that kind of thing. And again, we only show the types for which we have data. So that's kind of an overview of the filters. And the other thing you can do is, well, let me just give you an example here. So if I come to competencies and say I want to find a result for programming, what I do is I type it in and I hit enter to add it to the list. And I could add more if I wanted to, but we'll stick with this for now. What it gives me is 5 results down here that apply to a competency of programming. And if I'm, say, a consumer of this data and I want to get a better idea of what these, say, first 3 credentials are, I can compare them. Now, I could do that by looking at the search results here, but that's only really a basic overview. There's a more powerful compare tool if you hit these buttons over on the right, and you'll see that as I click each one of those, it flashed orange down here at the bottom. Now, what I can do here is hit toggle details, and this will show me that I'm currently comparing 3 credentials. I have those selected. I could also compare organizations, assessments, or learning opportunities if I wanted to, but we'll stick with credentials for now. I can remove them if I decide I don't want to compare them. I can recollapse the details box, or I can just go straight to the compare page, which I will do here. And what the compare page is, it loads data for all the things that you have selected, and it displays them side by side. So what we see here is the name of the credential up top, the organization that owns it right here, again with a link to that organization. We see descriptions right here. And I can also expand these boxes to reveal more information about those credentials. So you see this one is an associate's degree. These 2 are bachelor's degrees. We see the audience levels. We see the industries. We see the occupations, the estimated costs for earning those credentials. And we see the estimated time to earn them. So again, this is just kind of a summary of the information. This is not everything we have in CTDL, but this is the most important pieces, according to, I think, some of the feedback we've gotten in the past, that people would want to compare on their credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bachelor of Science in Information Technology, one from Brandon University. And this will take us to the detail page. Now, before I get into this, I'm going to hold up for a second and ask, are there any questions so far? How is this different from the Department of Labor Apprenticeship database? I imagine Jeannie could probably answer that a little bit more better than I could, but essentially the information here comes from the Credential Registry, which is a repository of information that we're getting directly from all of our partners right now. The Department of Labor Apprenticeship Database, I would assume just from the name, is more focused on apprenticeships, whereas we have data about all the different kinds of credentials within CTDL here. Does that help with your
Hey
question?
Nate,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good question, Jenna. We're familiar with the Department of Labor Apprenticeship database, and actually Department of Labor is a partner and a member of our technical advisory committee. So, of course it's different because their database belongs to Department of Labor and it's registered apprenticeships. What we would propose is, once this registry is live, as I said, in 2017, organizations, other organizations, state government, federal government, could use the registry and use these technologies as a way to enhance or improve the information that they're largely manually procuring through databases. So they're two different things in terms of they have a very specific type of information in that specific database.
Okay. Were there any other questions before we move on?
Go ahead, Nate.
All right. So what we have here is the detail page. It's our basic name for it. There is a detail page for a credential. There's one for an assessment, one for a learning opportunity, and one for an organization. They all look fairly similar, and they follow the same structure that we'll go over in a moment. The basic pieces of a detail page are at the top here. You've got the name of the credential. You've got the organization that owns it. You've got the credential type here. And then we have these three sort of zones here. In the first one, we have the basic information about the credential. So that involves the URL to the credential's website. We have the description of it here. We have the icon representing the type of credential here. We have the estimated time to earn that credential, in this case by completing the learning opportunity. We'll go more into that in a moment. We have some of the controlled vocabulary-based information here, including the credential type, the audience levels. We have the subjects here. We have the occupations and industries that come from the SOC codes and the NAICS codes. We have some additional information down here, which is just sort of all the extra miscellaneous info about the credential. So that's your basic info section. In the middle here, we've got the location information. So the way that this works is that if the credential is available online, you'll see the link here at the top, and that'll go to a page that tells you more about where you go online to earn this credential. If there's location-related information, then you'll see a map down below it. In this case, you have this address here, so this is where you would go physically to earn this credential. Beneath that, we have jurisdiction. Now, the way that jurisdiction differs from location is that jurisdiction for a credential is essentially where that credential can be used, where it's valid, where it's recognized. In this case here, this credential can be used anywhere in the United States. So even though you might have to go to a specific place to earn it, you can use it, anywhere in this country. And that may be, you may have a credential that's, say, a license or something that only applies to a certain state or even a certain city. That would have a jurisdiction of that state or of that city, even if that jurisdiction was different from where you go to actually earn that credential. So that's why we have both kinds of information. So we get a question, if there's no location, what is available online? Yeah, so the available online and the map location will only show if there's information for them. If there's no information, then they don't show. So they're not linked together in any sort of way. The reason we see both here is because we have information for both. If we only had one, you'd only see one. Okay, good. Beneath that, we have the owner of the organization. So in this case, it's Brandman University, and we have just a quick little blurb about who and what they are, with some additional information about them. And so that's our center kind of zone here. Over on the right is where the bulk of the information, not only for the credential, but the bulk of information within CTDL is. So CTDL includes a whole bunch of classes up here that we call profiles. Now what a profile is basically is a grouping of information. So you might have a credential that has a certain cost, but it only has that cost, say, in a certain state or for a certain audience, like so maybe for veterans who are in-state. The way that we group that information together is through these profiles. And so we'll go back over here. So we see, first of all, that this credential teaches these 39 competencies. So if you go into the program to earn this credential, you're going to acquire all 39 of these competencies here. And this is just a list of competencies, kind of, again, grouped together by where they come from. We also see that this credential includes 13 credentials. So again, in the course of earning this credential, you're also going to earn these 13 credentials here. So again, it just shows a quick little summary of what those are, including an icon and some more clickable information there. We also see that this credential includes this quality assurance. And it says owner's quality assurance because this particular QA is sort of, I guess, inherited, for lack of a better term, by the credential through the organization that owns it. So really it's Brandman University in this case that has this quality assurance, but because this credential is owned and offered and whatever by Brandman, the implication is this credential essentially has this quality assurance. We also see the requirements and recommendations for this credential. So these are some of the connections we talked about earlier. We see that this credential requires this learning opportunity here. So again, it's just a short summary of it with these conditions. And we also see that it has these other requirements that you must also meet in order to earn this credential. So these requirements here, we'll get into in some more detail in a minute, but these come to us from Brandman University. We also see that this credential has these estimated costs, or more specifically, the learning opportunity for it has these estimated costs. So you may be kind of wondering at this point, why are we seeing stuff from the learning opportunity on the detail page for the credential? That's intentional. The idea is that if the credential, say, requires an assessment and a learning opportunity, or if it requires, 2 other credentials or whatever, we want to be able to bring that information up, or at least the relevant portions of it up, to that credentials detail page to save whoever's looking at this information the trouble of having to go to each one of those sort of sub-entities to find that information. So we call that bubbling up. So this information this cost information here has bubbled up to us from the learning opportunity. So this cost information actually exists in the record for the learning opportunity, but the WorkIt app has, read this credential, say, oh, this credential requires this learning opportunity. Let me go investigate that, pull the pieces the person's going to care about, and display them on the credentials detail page. So it's done that here. It's done that for the owner's QA and in a few other places as well. And then the last thing we see here is the registry information. So within the credential registry, a credential is identified by its CTID, which is a Credential Transparency Identifier, which looks like this here. You would essentially, using either an API or a web interface or one of those kinds of things, you would give that identifier to the registry, and what you would get back is a record that looks like this. This is JSON LD encoding of all the information that we have for this credential. This is how it would appear in the registry within the envelope, and there's some more technical details related to that. But basically, this is what you would get back. And the reason this is encoded in this way is so that a computer can understand it. So you could have another application, another website, another program of some sort, go to the registry with that identifier, retrieve this information, and as long as that device understands CTDL, it can pull pieces out of this and display them for its user in whatever context makes sense for that app or that website. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the organization's detail page, which in this case is Brandman University. And you'll see that the layout of this is very much the same because we have a lot of overlapping information between credentials, organizations, assessments, and learning opportunities. There's a lot of sort of commonality. They all have, names, descriptions. They've got some controlled vocabulary related info. They've got profiles over on the right. They've all got something to do with the location. So we use the same layout to convey the information for all 4 of them. So again, at the top, you've got the name of the organization. You've got the type of it. In this case, it's the credentialing organization. We also have quality assurance organizations that do, QA. but this one is a credentialing organization. We've got the URL to it. We've got, again, a summary of it. We've got some controlled vocabulary things here. We have miscellaneous information down below. We've got location-related information in the center here, along with all these different addresses that Brandman has for their locations. Now, one thing that's sort of unique to an organization is the contact information. So what this is are, phone numbers, fax numbers, email addresses, that kind of thing, and also the social media that we've got depicted through these icons here that you could reach that organization at. And again, Brandman operates within the United States, so that is their sort of jurisdiction. And again, we have some profile-related information for this organization. We see that they own the credential we were just looking at. Now, obviously, they own a whole bunch more, but this is the one we have data for. This is what you see here. We see that they have 4 condition manifests. And what condition manifests are is a sort of a recent concept or development in CTDL, where the idea is that you have an organization, say in this case, Brandman University. They have a common set of requirements for, most, if not all, of their degrees. And rather than have them duplicate that information whenever they're publishing data about each one of their credentials, what instead we've set up is this condition manifest thing. So condition manifest is essentially a list of condition profiles, which are, again, a CTDL thing. And a condition profile, just quickly here, is a list of all of the conditions that you have to meet in order to earn something or to complete something, in this case a credential. So if you want to earn this credential, you have to meet all of the conditions listed here. Now the way the WorkIt app functions is it takes this data whenever you're looking at this credential here. So it says, okay, this credential is owned by this organization. This credential references these condition manifests. So what I'm going to do as WorkIt is I'm going to take the information from these condition manifests, I'm going to bring it over to the credentials detail page. I'm going to add that to any information that is specific just to that credential. I'm going to show it all together here. So you see that the information here is the same as the information over here. Now maybe it's formatted a little differently, maybe it's in a different order, but ultimately it's the same info. So that's the way that the condition manifest works. And we have a similar thing that we're working on right now called cost manifest that works the same way. So Brandman University, again, might have, the same set of cost information, say for applications or for registrations or whatever, and maybe that applies to all of their credentials. So again, we don't want them to duplicate that. We want them to publish that separately and have all their credentials reference it. So we also see that Brandman University has received, again, the same quality assurance that we saw over here on the owner's quality assurance on the credentials page. So again, that information was floated up. And then we see that they perform this QA here. And we see, lastly, the registry information for Brandman University. So again, all 4 of the major entities within CTDL have a CTID, not just credentials. That's another sort of fairly recent development. But what we have here is a CTID for this organization, and we have the raw metadata that you would get back if you were to give that CTID to the registry and say, here, give me the data for this thing. And so that is the detail page for an organization. The assessments and learning opportunities also have detail pages. I can probably go to one here. And again, they follow the same structure, name, basic info on the left, location stuff in the center, additional profiles on the right. Assessment detail page looks very much like this. So I think that about covers it as far as the demo goes, unless I'm missing something, Jeannie. Otherwise, I will go ahead and turn that back over to you. Looks like Scarlett's been handling the questions.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, we got a couple of questions here real quick.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
What are the incentives or perks for a manufacturer to sign up? Well, again, I would think they're the same as for any other organization. The idea is that, there's 2 parts to it. One is the CTDL. One is the Credential Registry. The incentive to put their information in the Credential Registry is that is a registry that can then the data in it can be searched and picked up and displayed by any number of, apps or websites or clients or whatever that decide to read data from that registry and show it to their respective target audiences. So it's really just a way for that manufacturer to get their information about their credentials out there into the world so that other people can compare that information to what, say other manufacturers are putting into the registry, so that those credentials, can be refined or maybe even pursued or obtained or whatever by the interested people. And the other part of it
Yeah, hi,
is,
Jenna.
hmm?
Oh, sorry, Nate, sorry to interrupt, but before you go any further, so Jenna, good question. For a manufacturer, of course, we do see that there are employers that issue credentials, so I'm not sure which way you're looking at this. If a manufacturer actually issues credentials, as a part of pre-employment or employment, those credentials could be included in the registry. And part of the goal of the registry is transparency and comparability. And what we haven't covered in this specific webinar, just because we aren't repeating some of the past pieces of information, is the ultimate goal is this is linked data on the web and linked data in the registry. So much like Google is so much more helpful today with, say, if you're looking for a hotel or airlines or an event or even information about organizations, we envision that being the future of information about credentials. And if that didn't answer your question, go ahead, you could verbal, or you can put a little note in the chat. And Shauna, you said you have a question about the logo.
Yeah, so real quick, two things. One, the other part of the
Your
incentive
company
thing was
logo.
the
When
CTDL.
it's just easier for me to get on the line. When you put in your company logo, it has to be URL, and the one that's on our website is not the correct GBCI logo, which is really weird. Why marketing does not put our correct GBCI logo. I can't explain that. So our correct GBCI logo is, I can't upload it. The one that is showing in the system right now is not correct, and all I have is a PNG, and I can't do that. I can't put the correct one, and I was told it has to be a URL. What do I do?
Let's make sure Scarlett and David make sure we know which credential or which organization Shauna is with, and then Shauna, we'll follow up with you on that. I understand what you're saying. What we're trying not to do is actually store physical files, because the idea is to connect link data out in the real world. But we can definitely talk some more about that and make sure that we can get this resolved for you. Okay, perfect. All right, why don't we go ahead and move on to the next section. Scarlett, are you going to take it from here?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Scarlett Van Stuckelman. I'm with the Credential Engine team. I'm just going to quickly go over the instructions that were personalized and sent out over the last week or so for your specific credentials in your specific organization. Depending on if you, depending on your credential, you received for sure or instruction for the credential and the organization, and depending on your credential, you'll get the assessment or learning opportunity. And I'm also going to quickly touch bases on the introduction of the CTD L Editor and the next step for you guys as the partners. So first, one of the instructions that was sent to you was for the organization. For your organization instructions, personalized, at the top we have the name of your organization and also the direct link to the detail page for your organization. So you'll see that over here. In the instructions, we provided a checklist so you can easily navigate through all of these detail pages. And like Nate said earlier, we have the 3 zones, and this instruction will walk through every step of that. You can look on your detail page to verify that the information is correct. And you can also get to the credentials that you've provided that you own from your organization detail page. We just wanted to make it kind of full circle. And then these instructions will also show you how to log in and how to find your credentials in the search. So then next we have the credential one, and this is going to have the list of all your credentials and URLs in there. And same with organization, it's going to provide any definitions on information that you may not be sure what it means, and the checklist of going through each of the zones and each section to ensure your information is correct. Same with the assessment, like Nate said earlier, that all of our detail pages look very, very similar, so we can keep the consistency and keep it simple. So again, just another checklist to go through to see if you do provide an assessment, if that information that we have inputted in there is correct. And then finally, if you have a learning opportunity for your credential, you're going to, you'll receive those instructions, again, with how to go through each of the zones and checking if all the information is correct. And then next, I'll just do a quick introduction to the CTD L Editor. All of you as the registry participants have access to your credentials and the ability to edit the information. All registry participants from our records have received their login information to view your credentials. If you have not received your login, please let me know and I can get your login information sent to you right away after this webinar. And to edit any of the information that we have inputted already into the editor, you'll see a edit button at the top right hand corner of every detail page, including organization, credential, assessment, and learning opportunities. And then once you click on edit, a new tab will open and you'll be taken to the editor with the panel to enter in your information. So here we see the organization editor. There are all of these panels that expand, and if they are green, there is information entered into these panels. And then the blue, light gray color means there's no information. The CTDL just shows all of the information that can be added. It's not all required. And then when you are editing any of your information, you just want to make sure that you're saving the data. And you, at any time, once you've saved your data, you can preview, and that's going to take you right back to the detail page so you can immediately see everything you've added in from the editor. Now here you'll see is the Credential Editor. It looks very similar to the organization. There's just a few more panels because we're going to want some more information, different information for your credential compared to for your organization. Again, the green panels, there's information has already been entered in there. In the blue and gray, their information doesn't apply to this credential, or it just hasn't been entered yet. Every credential entered into the WorkIt Prototype is at a different of completion. They're not all fully complete. They're all in different stages. So here I says the assessment editor. Again, it's very similar. We like to have the consistency between all the detail pages and the editors. So this is where you will enter all of your assessment information and competencies and costs for your assessment. And again, just making sure you're saving your data, and you can preview at any time to see your detail page. And then we also have the Learning Opportunity Editor. It's going to look, again, very similar to all the other ones with the same green, there's information, blue, the information hasn't been entered or it doesn't apply to this learning opportunity. And as same as all the others, you can save your data and preview this detail page at any time. Before we go to the next step, did I miss any questions? So for the next steps, we want you, the registry participants, to log into the WorkIt, the credentialfinder.org. We want you to use the guides and the checklist that we created for your team to review and provide feedback on your information for your organization, your credential, your assessments, and your learning opportunities. And then you, like I mentioned earlier, you do have the ability to edit your own information. And if you do not feel comfortable enough or you have questions or feedback, please feel free to email me or Emily, Raphael, and we can make those changes for you or get on a call or a quick webinar, anything to make sure that your information is correct in there. And then right now we're currently working on creating editor instructions. Once those instructions have been completed, they'll be emailed to all of the registry participants. And the next webinar we have for all partners is going to be focused more on the CTDL editor and going through those instructions so you do feel comfortable going in and editing your information and knowing what everything means. And here's just some references from today's presentation.
Great. Thank you, Scarlett. Well, we've got a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions they would like to ask or comments they would like to make over the phone or via their microphone, you can go ahead and do so, or put any last comments in the chat, and we'll address those. Otherwise, if there aren't any additional questions or comments, we'll go ahead and conclude today's webinar. Good question, Amy. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll stay close to all of our partners. So as it goes live, we want to have correct information, and yes, it can definitely transfer. And beyond just having correct information for just the small number of credentials that were selected by each partner, we'll also have the information for you to put all of your credentials into the registry. So yes, we wouldn't want you to have to redo what's already been done. Good. All right. Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions or comments, thanks again to all of you. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon, and we certainly appreciate you participating with the Credential Engine. You will receive a follow-up email with this webinar with the PowerPoint attached. Anybody who had indicated they did not receive instructions or needed a password will be sending you that email, follow-up email right away as well. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.